I thought that was a perfect ending.
It was.
It was
I
so beautiful. Greetings, nerds. This is Scene and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
doing very well, sir. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
we're saying goodbye to a series that we've been talking about for about 4 years now, 4 to 5
Yep.
years, because we had that blackout period.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But and we next week will be our last show of 2023, and we got some lists.
Got some lists. Checking it twice. Yeah, I
Check,
started. Yeah,
check
yeah,
3 times.
yeah. I added another film to my list this week, but yeah, it's hard to believe that this is our penultimate show for the year.
See, what happened to don't tell me what's on your list? Because now I kind of figured when you DM'd me about the list, which
Yeah,
for those listening, it's Leave the World Behind, because he just watched that this week.
yeah, yeah.
And in my defense, I'm not spoiling this, but on the rundown it even says spoilery free thoughts about Leave the World Behind from Will.
Yep.
So Will, besides really enjoying the movie,
Yeah.
why don't you share your thoughts about it without any additional spoilers?
Yeah. So, Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix. I think it had a limited theatrical release as well. It stars Mahershala Ali, Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Bacon's in it, and a couple other. Can't remember the kids who were their actors who play the kids of Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts. But basically, it's a film that was based off a book of the same title. Came out, I guess, around 2020, and it's produced by actually Michelle and Barack Obama, and directed and written by Sam Ishmael, which anyone who's been listening to us for some time knows that we were big fans of Mr. Robot, even though speaking of endings, ended some years ago. But as far as the plot, not get won't give into anything that you haven't probably heard, either reading a summary on Netflix or come across social media, whatever. It's basically a apocalyptic drama thriller where a incident occurs, and the two families that are subject to the film is they're in New York City, and they all end up in a vacation home after this apocalyptic event happened. And the cool thing about the story is that it gives you little nuggets about what it could be, but it also leaves it open to like the viewer's imagination as well. So you do get nuggets of news reports and things that happen, but at the same time, um, it leaves things open for interpretation. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke, and their family ends up in this vacation home. Mahershala Ali's character and his daughter end up come to the home. And again, I won't say more than that, but they're together, and then it's just basically an exploration of like what happens to humanity when something like this occurs. And I would say it's about a 2.5 hour long movie. I broke it up, and I will say that the setup is a bit of a slog. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. And it takes a minute for things to go, but then once we get to that really critical I guess about almost to the midpoint of the film or so, maybe in the first 45 minutes or so is when it really starts to go. And once it goes, it just sucks you in. And because I was planning on just like probably breaking it up over another night. Next thing you know, I'm like done. It's like done watching it because it just pulled me in. The ending, again, spoiler free, but you probably have seen some chatter, if you are very active on social media, about this film as far as the ending. That it's definitely one of those endings that will either work for you or it will not. But again, it leaves things open for the viewer to decide what happens, which for me, it was like, huh, I really enjoyed it, thought, and strongly recommend it to folks, especially if you're, as far as getting into the cinematography and the directing and stuff. A lot of takes from Sam Ishmael if you've watched Mr. Robot, or if you've watched Homeland, not Homeland, Homecoming, which is
Homecoming.
another, Homecoming, which was another show with Julia Roberts.
Yep.
A lot of those themes and things that those director trademarks show up in this film, and like I said, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I kind of wish you didn't tell me that he directed it. I kept seeing advertisements, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, that's the one I should like sometime randomly just throw on in the background. And so once you told me he directed it, I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I had watched it without knowing, would I have picked up on the fact that it was directed by him? Because he definitely has a signature style. And we saw that clear as day when we started watching The Homecoming, and we're like, this dude. But no, so that is a recommendation. I did throw on a different movie randomly. I don't know if it was before when we recorded last week. I think it was. But because of TikTok, I randomly threw on the movie May December.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard about this movie?
I have, mostly because of the Golden Globes, but
it's not a musical. It's not a comedy. It is bizarre to me how it ended up there. Because this is an art house film. It's very much, and the subject matter is essentially a quote unquote method actress played by Natalie Portman goes and studies for a role she's doing a couple who it's not so for those who have forgotten about this happening, but there was an incident a long time ago between a married 30-something, I think late 30-year-old woman, and she was a teacher, and she raped one of her students, but ended up pregnant, went to jail, came out of jail, still went back to the kid. They ended up getting married when he was legal and had a family and yada, yada, yada.
I think they're still together. Yeah.
No, I actually heard that she died in 2020.
Oh, okay.
And right before that, they separated.
Okay.
Which makes sense. Now, again, it's not beat for beat the same relationship, but it's or even the same story, because in my mind, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking what's with the pet shop? What happened there? I thought this woman was a teacher, and it's like, no, not in this. This is not an actual, it's not about that story, but they used it as I don't know if you want to say inspiration for setting up this story. And Natalie Portman plays, Natalie Portman has two gears. She either has her commercial girl next door gear or the Black Swan in her. And in this, she's definitely doing Black Swan.
Okay.
I think it's Julianne Moore who plays She Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yep.
And then one of the actors from Riverdale, Charles Malton, plays the husband. Okay. Who and he delivers a very good performance, and they all three of them do very good, for the roles that they are. He is more impressive just because of the complexity that you're seeing and what he was able to emote. And there is one line that is so chilling, and I didn't realize that it was taken while watching it. I did not realize the line was taken from an interview with
Huh.
the real life couple.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm watching it. I'm like, whoa, that's really good dialogue. And then I find out because somebody did a screenshot comparison of the interview and that scene, and it's like that's why it was so like it hits you in the gut, because a version of this actually did happen in real life, and that's how fucked up this woman is. Like, for her to say something like that and to be in denial. And so I do have to say, I think it was hyped up more for me. Because I thought the whole actress, like Natalie Portman's role, was just like, okay, whatever. I don't care about this. I'm very interested in what's going on over here. I'm just like, it's really fascinating what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's but I also understand that they didn't want to focus on that. They wanted to kind of use, I don't know, somewhat of a filter to look into that, but not actually go there to that kind of like gross, toxic, inhumane, arguably, type of relationship. Like, to have that happen, it's just like all fucked up. Anyways, I'm spending way too long on this, but all I have to say is when I saw and heard about it being nominated for Best Musical and Comedy, I watched that entire movie. I did not laugh a single time. So I have no idea who would determine that to be a comedy. And the subject matter, like, you are fucked up if you think that is funny.
Yeah, well, it is the Golden Globes, and even though they have changed ownership because of all the fiascos that the Hollywood Foreign Press Association had in the past, and I think they've been acquired by, I think, CBS, or I think Dick Clark Productions or something now. But yeah, whenever you mentioned that, well, I think I heard on one of the podcasts we mutually listened to about May December, and why they're like, why is it like in that category with the Globes as musical comedy, and so and I think I did see, like, yeah, so I was like, huh. And then when I actually pulled up the list of all the other films that were nominated in that category, and also just the Globes period, and I think it's just one of those things, like, they just, I think the Globes just like, we can't put this in, we only have X number of spots for like just general best motion picture for drama. And, so, when you look at those films like Anatomy of Fall, Killer and Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, etc., they just sort of lumped it in with the other musical comedy. Yeah. And,
right.
Yeah.
And there's always one that this happens to.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it to this degree. Like, this one really stood out just because in the past it's been like, that was kind of funny. But no, this one really isn't funny. And so it just is like that. I think that's why there's so much more of an uproar about this, because it just, as I was saying before, the subject matter alone, there's nothing funny about that.
Yeah.
And there was definitely not a breakout musical moment in it. So I'm very confused around that. And at the same time, to your point about, well, they do this, or they find themselves doing this because they only have a limited number of spots for Best Picture. So does the Oscars.
Yeah.
And not like 99% of the time it's all dramas. So
and
Best
if you don't,
so it's just like, and this is an award show. There's limited spots for a reason.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was also surprised when I was looking through the list, and I don't want to necessarily go through all of them because these days I don't really care. But for everything I've been hearing about this movie, and especially the performances within it, I was surprised to see how absent Ironclaw was from all of the lists.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I've been hearing amazing
Yep.
things about Ironclaw, and yeah, it's like
And Zac Efron in particular.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully they'll get some. Yeah, because even the Critics' Choice Awards, they didn't. It's just sort of like, okay, we're just going to go with the ones that. I think Jeff Snyder used the term groupthink, and he's right. I mean, it's just like we're just going to go with the popular or the herd mentality as far as some of these with these films, and some good ones are being left off. And Ironclaw sounds like definitely be one of them. But I'm
Yeah.
glad. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about how somebody was talking about how Netflix released the most viewed programs on the
Yeah.
platform for the year. Have you heard what the number one is?
I had looked at it earlier, and I was going to put it on the list. Yeah, Netflix did this week. Dropped all the metrics. I
Are you
know.
looking it up right now?
No, I had it.
It is off the top of my head.
I know you do. I know. I remember The Glory was one of them.
Yep. Glory, yeah. I think it came in at number 2 or number 3.
3, yeah, yeah. I know Bridgerton was one up there pretty high. I can't remember the first one though.
Well, I think it's Charlotte who's it's Bridgerton, but it's also not Bridgerton
right.
me.
Yeah.
But yeah, which I watched. I was actually surprised by how many of them I did watch. I was surprised. So I just need to understand we're talking about things that were also released within the same year, because everyone was going off not too long ago about how many people were on Netflix watching Suits.
Mm-hmm.
All 70,000 episodes of Suits. And I was thinking, oh, that's going to be number 1, but I'm pretty sure this is also like things that were also released in the same year, but it was Night Agent.
Yeah. So I guess
I also don't remember anyone talking about this show.
No, I don't either. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I guess Netflix. I guess it's one of the things that's come out from this. One of the good things from the strikes is, basically being more transparent. I mean, it's the first time they've like dropped their metrics publicly, and and it was like, I guess 18,000 total movies and seasons of TV shows, and this is just for the first half of like 2023. Mm-hmm. So it's not even a full year. But yeah, but those were like, I guess that was some of the things that that we just talked about. And also just Suits wasn't one of them, considering like it seems like everywhere you turn it was just like Suits. But also
thinking about the list, all those shows we just named were also released this year. So I'm pretty sure that list was of like the most streamed shows on Netflix that also came out in 2023.
Yeah,
because Suits technically didn't start on Netflix. Like it already had an audience beforehand. That's why they made like 8 seasons of it, and then it just entered like syndication. It got caught, and so now it's there. But
it's like but I think but it's like it was like they released everything, not only the things that came out the first part that were released at the 2023 release date. It's like everything. But interestingly enough, The Office is still, it's not so high in the US, but apparently globally people still outside of the United States are still fascinated with The Office, which I guess was the Suits before the Suits as far as Netflix people rewatching old shows.
I guess that's been I mean, Seinfeld, I remember one time on holiday, randomly, because Seinfeld was on Netflix, we ended up watching like old episodes of Seinfeld, like just randomly. That's usually what it's late night television. It's like what Nick at Night used to be back at the day. I'm up all night, so might as well put on a really old show that I've seen 1,000 times. But hey, that's what it is. Captain America 4 is going through more reshoots and adds an additional writer.
Yeah. So just real quick superhero news from the Marvel side, well, I guess we had a couple things from Marvel this week. One was this one, and yeah, of course, we all know that Captain America 4 got bumped from summer to February of 2025, and typically these movies always have reshoots, but they're actually, I guess, it just didn't test well, and I guess given Marvel has really no margin for error other than at all at this point, because I think folks have really, we won't beat that horse to death anymore. But bottom line is they brought in the writer from Moon Knight, actually. One of the supervising producers, Matthew Orton, is going to come in and write some additional scenes for the reshoots, and they're apparently going to start filming that the first part of this upcoming year.
Also, Marvel Studios has provided several animated show updates during the screenings of What If Season 2, including Eyes of Wakanda.
Yeah, Eyes of Wakanda, I mean, there really wasn't much other it was part of a sizzle reel that dropped during the screening. Not too many details other than that it's going to chart some of the previous history of Wakanda and Wakandans searching for artifacts made of vibranium, and so that's the only detail that was really given out about the show. But beyond that, not much as far as when it's going to come out or anything like that. None of that, because it just really sounds like it's in early stages of development. But I think Ryan Coogler is going to be a part of the series, though.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, and then the other two things. Oh, I didn't know if you were going to do it. I wanted me to. Yeah.
Anymore. Yeah. I thought you were just going to go through the list.
Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't know if you want. Anyway, I'll just quickly go through the list. Yeah. I mean, most folks probably know this already. The X-Men animated series 97. It's a continuation of the series. Part of that sizzle reel had Gambit and Cyclops and Wolverine showing up, and it is coming out next year, 2024. And then the Spider-Man animated show, originally called Spider-Man Freshman Year, has been retitled Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and they showed Peter in a proto Spider-Man suit, and it's also coming out next year. But nothing about Marvel Zombies.
Nothing about Marvel Zombies. Thank God. We got enough zombies going on. All right. The last bit of news is Will just wants me to say that the National Film Registry has added 25 more films.
This is one of the Library of Congress, started in 1989, actually started cataloging films of culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant films that are at least 10 years past their release date. And yeah, they announced several ones this year. And I guess the reason why it was just kind of interesting for me from the standpoint of, like, I thought some of these films are already in the registry, like The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's just now like getting into the National Film Registry. I thought it was already in there. Terminator 2 was one.
Terminator 2.
Yeah. Home Alone it was also selected this year. Actually, the Turner Classic Movies was airing the selection ceremony tonight, Thursday, December 14, as of the date of this recording. But Apollo 13 was another one. But got a trivia question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which MCU film is part of the registry?
So it had to have come out 10 years.
Yep.
And you said MCU specifically.
Yep. It has to be at least 10 years old and be culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Iron Man.
There,
okay, really?
You're correct. It's Iron Man.
I honestly did not know that, but
yeah,
I was thinking Avengers would be too easy.
Yeah.
And I think everyone, ironically, and I think I have mentioned this during previous recordings, I did not see Iron Man in theaters. I did not see it when it first came on video. I saw it like a good 5 years after the fact.
Huh.
I think I saw I'm pretty sure my first MCU movie. I know for sure that my first MCU movie in theaters was Captain America 2.
Okay. Huh.
I missed the entire first phase.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I didn't even see Avengers. I think I started to look. No, Avengers came out like what in 2015? No,
It was like
no,
around
2012.
2013. Yeah. Yeah.
2012. Yeah, yeah. So, hmm.
Yeah. So Iron Man came out in 2008, and it was part of the class of 2022 as far as getting entered into the film registry.
Is Dark Knight in the film registry? I would assume so.
I need to check. I mean, I would think it would. If it's not, it'll probably be nominated and entered very, very soon. I would think because
It would be weird. It's weird to me to think that Iron Man would get nominated before Dark Knight, though.
yeah. But I guess the Iron Man. I guess well, again, given that Iron Man is the class of 2022, by that point, the MCU has really developed into the creature, the entity that we know that it is today. So I think
Right,
that's
but
probably
Heath
why. Yeah.
Ledger's Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
there is that. I'll have to.
like
Yeah,
Dark Knight. I totally understand what you're saying about Iron Man in that
yeah,
time, but Dark Knight is always in the conversation when people talk about best comic book movies of all time.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's like on. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure. I know it's on the American Film Institute, probably
yeah,
top 100 for sure.
yeah.
But I. That's a very good point. I have to look it up, and I will follow up next week on our final
And
episode of the
and
year.
I'll just say it right now. I don't think. Well, I don't know, but do you think Black Panther will end up in there?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And if we'll think
I
about it, people can actually nominate. And I'll drop a link on our in the show notes. But you can suggest films for the registry, and you can actually vote on films for the registry.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm, no,
It
but
will never be on the list.
maybe well, Black
Or
Panther.
okay, if
Yeah.
you don't, okay, who has a better chance? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Ooh. Well, it's incomplete. Across the spider, it's incomplete. So.
No, no, I call foul. I call foul. Okay,
I think
Black
I think the
Panther
first
is
one will.
great.
Yeah.
Black Panther is great. I totally understand the significance of it, but that third act is weak. Okay,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
third act really it drove me crazy. At the so if Black Panther can get in with the third act like that, then I think Across the Spider-Verse deserves it more than Into the Spider-Verse, incomplete or not, just because that is a damn well put together sequel. Like it's in the middle of two bookends and it fills it out perfectly and it's like it's yeah,
Yeah.
I think it surpassed complete or incomplete.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows the best movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy was the second one. Okay,
Yeah.
Two Towers.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one too much walking, and talking. The last one way too many endings. It had like a dozen endings for one movie, and
Yeah.
it just went on and on and on. The middle one, it was
Mhm.
like we're already here. We're gonna get into the action. There's gonna be this awesome fighting sequences that I can't remember right now, and a lot of mud. And we introduce Gollum. Gollum's
Yeah.
very prominent in the second one, and it's just good. It's just good.
Yeah.
And then you're left knowing more to come.
That's true. That's true. I mean, uh, I could see from an aesthetic standpoint as well as cultural. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to have this conversation 10 years from now, but I think um, it will. I think it definitely will have a very good has a very strong case for getting in as far as being selected. And if people probably will look back at both. I mean, quite frankly, the trilogy, and just sort of see how it took comic book animation movies to another level.
Yeah, yeah, and it's gonna go home with that Golden Globe and gonna get the Oscar for Best Animated Film.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, because if it's the middle child, I call foul. I call offsides for anybody. Like, I don't watch football, but because of Taylor Swift and because of Travis Kelce, I don't watch football, but I always see what's going on with the Chiefs every week. And boy, oh boy, the offsides, like, call, Jesus Christ.
Oh boy.
What a bunch of idiots. I'm sorry. I really had, up until this past week, I really had a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes. I knew Patrick Mahomes' name before I knew Travis Kelce's name. And I knew Andy Reid because my dad is from Philadelphia. So 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
So I have 3 brothers. For those who are listening, I have 3 brothers. I grew up watching football on Sundays. I grew up knowing a general idea. In my adult life, do I? No. But it's also, so going into this week, I had a lot of respect for them, but boy, did they lose it because, geez, what a bunch of poor sports. Like, poor sportsmanship, the biggest turnoff. You're getting all these new fans because of Taylor Swift. You're getting all these new eyes, and a game and a call does not go your way, and you're going to be like, oh, but it was barely. No. There is no barely about it. It was offsides.
It was offsides. Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah. I've just been loving all the videos of Patrick and, putting the Muppet voice over him.
Yeah. Oh, poor the kid. The unfortunate thing is, like, he's now just going to be a meme, and it'll take so much longer for people to forget about this than any future Super Bowl wins or any future accolades he gets. Like, he'll always be like, one of the first things that comes to mind when you say Patrick Mahomes will be that offsides call. I mean, it wasn't even like he was looking at it like, oh, everyone loves Travis, and it was a big play for him, and so he's going to stand up for his friend. It's like, that's not how you play this. You should have talked to Taylor's PR team, because they would have told you how to play this, because that's not it. Oh my God. And we're spending a lot of time on the news and a lot of time talking about football of all things. Because it's not that I don't want to talk Doom Patrol. It's also that I am glad this series has ended. I am also it's bittersweet, because I do, for as much as the writing has not been the greatest, I do have to say, to have the last line be from Cliff, and I'm already jumping all the way to the end. Forgive me, I do these things. But have the very last line of the show be from Cliff, who just witnessed watching what'll happen to his grandson, what'll happen to his daughter, a life essentially play out, and then to be like, I'm finally home, and then to shut down. I thought that was a perfect ending.
It was.
It was so beautiful.
It was. I was a mess. I was. I was. I even now I'm getting like, it's just now. Literally every time I think, literally this week, because I watched it earlier in the week, and every time I thought about that ending, I don't know. I don't know if it's just as I get older, I just get more sentimental or what, but it broke. I was just like, man, there's been. This year, there have been like several things as far as shows we've covered that like wrecked me emotionally, and that was one of them. Because it was such a powerful ending, and especially, because it was the bookend of both it was appropriate to end the series with Cliff because he was the first character we met at the beginning of the series.
He's a standout.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, hate him or love him or like it's Cliff, it's Brendan Fraser, and he's the one who stayed consistent throughout the entire show, but also didn't become a Larry where he just got tired of it.
Yeah. And also let's give some kudos to Riley Shanahan who played who was the body of Cliff, because he also just the being obviously Brendan did the tremendous voice work, and it's a big part of the Renaissance, quite the work that he did on this show. But Riley, just doing the body and the mechanics, and and the body acting, and being and even Matthew Zuck with Larry, both of them. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot to convey the emotions that because I'm sure Brendan is probably looking at him whenever he's probably doing his voice recordings, possibly for the show. And yeah, I mean, it was just such a real blending of that. And also, other thing I thought too with this show is it's bittersweet, but also it's like the end of like a chapter of DC too, big picture, because this was like you said earlier when we started recording this evening. This premiered like 4.5 years ago or so, and it was like one of the flagship shows of the DC Universe app. It's one of the 4, and it was the last one, because we had Doom Patrol, Titans, Swamp Thing, and Stargirl.
Yeah. The first time we saw it was actually on Titans. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were right. I don't know if we said this on the podcast. I do know that we talked about this, but the butts did save the day.
Yep.
Butts did save the day. And then Cliff would argue with Doom Patrol. But then again, Doom Patrol also, there would be no zombie butts if it wasn't for Doom Patrol, because they kind of released it, and it's a never-ending circle of. Yeah. Which I mean, it made sense. Like listening to that entire conversation, I think that sums up the show in a nutshell. I'm pretty sure that's what happened in the season 1 finale, where the events of that first season, none of it would have happened had Doom Patrol actually not been the way they are.
Yeah, we wouldn't have roaches making out in Cloverton.
They know how to start a fire, and then eventually we'll put it out in the most bizarre way.
Yep.
Shout out to Rita, who I kind of figured in the first episode would die. I was surprised though how they did it, just because it wasn't that she died in battle or anything. It's that they end up getting all of their immortality back, because Immortus, who I don't even want to talk about because I have so many issues with that character, but ends up finding success in the time stream with her butts, her zombie butts, and their Buttiful Choir. I'm not sure if she name dropped what their band named were, but so as repayment for all this success, she provides all of Doom Patrol with finger or toenails that they have to eat, and then they get their longevity back.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Rouge is too late to give it to Rita, who's already become a ghost, and then makes it very clear after like 25 minutes that she does not want them to go to the underworld and save them. And with the death of Rita, that means it's the end of Doom Patrol, which I thought was also kind of fitting. Just because there's something about Rita I didn't like her character in the first season, but she definitely grew and became someone who I really respected, especially her dynamics with each of the characters. Yeah. And her farewell just reminded me of a conversation we had probably in season 2 where Larry works when he is with Rita.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about it. And for, I think, seasons 3 and 4, for whatever reason, the writers stopped pairing them up.
Yeah.
And that just drove me crazy, where I was like, and I was reminded in this when they had their farewell, their separate farewell. And I'm just like, see, that's what I've been missing. I've been missing this dynamic because she did see him and he saw her, and he's gay, so that's, I'm not talking like romance here, but there was a pure friendship, probably the purest out of all of these members of Doom Patrol. And so I really appreciate that scene, but at the same time, as a viewer of the entire series, all I can think is, why now? Why? You gave it to me first 2 seasons, took it away, complained about it, and then you're like, oh, and then we're gonna kill her, but they're gonna have their friendship moment. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Yeah, I mean that, and I think they, and even within universe, they do address that point to the, with the estrangement that they had, especially with him not supporting her for team leader, and 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 also, with that 3rd season, whenever they, she, that was really when she and Rouge really started developing their pairing and relationship. I guess it was one of those things like, okay, we're going to take Larry in this one direction. We're going to take Rita. I think they needed to separate them because you are right. She definitely showed the most growth of the core group, from where we saw her at the beginning of the series to the end, where she did become basically, you had Victor, who was like, superhero, traditional superhero, and Rita, who like learned how to be the superhero leader and of the group. And I think she needed to be separated from Larry, I think, because of, well, I mean, Larry separated himself from her, I think, is more so than him. She separating herself from him, because of his usual self-loathing, hate self, diaper, cloud every single day. I love how Jane and Cliff called him out on that too, whenever they were having that discussion at the end there, while they were waiting to die, about Larry, give it up. And so I did like that they did sort of recognize that, and then they did have that making amends of there in those episodes. But the thing that, speaking of Rita, I think the thing for me as I was watching these last 3 episodes was how she got I felt like she got sidelined. And I think, I mean, and I understand why they, since she was the oldest of them all, made sense why she aged faster than the rest of the group. But I just missed her presence, because she really did, just like you said, just grew so much as a character that by the end I was just like, where's Rita? I need Rita. I need more of Rita.
Yeah. So it's interesting how Jane, I remember first season, stole the show for me. And arguably, I think it's Underground Patrol. I mean, we all know, for those who have been listening to us talk about this show for as long as we have, everyone knows our favorite episode is Group Therapy Patrol. From the first season, I'm pretty sure it's called that, or Therapy Patrol. But I do remember the penultimate episode, I believe, is the Underground episode. And that one just blew me away. And it's a very important episode. And this season, especially in the second half of the season and the finale, man, they did a Larry on Jane, where I was like, I don't care anymore. And I don't know, it this might be like bad of me to say, it just felt anticlimactic.
Mm.
Where for whatever reason, her storyline, it makes sense what
Yeah.
happens about how the underground kind of come together and they accept that the childhood trauma that occurred with Kay actually occurred with all of them, even though they were manifestations after its occurrence.
Hmm.
But now that they've all, including Jane herself, have accepted that no, that happened not just to Kay, but to all of us. We are one. We're the kaleidoscope. Like, yeah, you get a sense like she found closure, she found peace, and is at one with everything.
Yeah.
And now she gets to go and do fun space things with Casey. So that's cute. But at the same time, I don't know. It just, Cliff's ending, Rita's ending, both hit me a lot more and stood
Yeah.
out to me a lot more than Larry's ending, than Jane's ending. And then Victor's was kind of like, okay. But Victor is also, he's, how about this? How about you share your thoughts on Jane and then we
Okay.
can talk about Victor a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. I think, yeah, let's, yeah, because I did want to speak on Jane before we got too far, because
Mhm.
there are a couple things. I agree with you in the sense that it was the predictable ending for her, for the character, for all in the underground to make peace, and and we saw that coming, in the pieces whenever Cliff and Jane tried to go to Florida in Toon Patrol in episode 10, and she started getting the flashbacks as far as like all the other 65 personalities, being subjected to being molested. um and then and then carried it forward to episode 11 with the chief and those recording sessions, because like you said, I think it was the first and maybe even part of the second season when we saw those sessions with the chief, and speaking to Jane and and all and learning more about what was going on with that. So yeah, so whenever they said the kaleidoscope, and I think the third episode in the penultimate, and I was like, okay, and then we saw them at the beginning of the finale working together, and the powers being manifested and used to fight Mortis. I thought that was great. So it was, yeah, I mean, I was okay with the ending. The thing that did get me with Jane's ending or Kay's ending was the hurried relationship with Space Case. Um, because I think it was the third season where she had the Shelley Byron relationship in the fog.
Probably. I don't really.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was going to be, because that was the one relationship I thought that was where they were going to maybe would have gone with Jane, because I know, if I recall from that, with their interactions and stuff, it was pretty intense relationship and stuff, and maybe they just planted the seed there so that whenever Casey showed up, we did see that last when we were discussing the musical episode last week with those numbers and their pairing there. There was definitely the romantic uh sparks between the two characters. So maybe that was, maybe Shelley was just sort of setting the stage for, like, whenever, Space Case did show up, that's how she and Jane ended up being together you know, in the capsule, just which is just so conveniently had the dimensions of the, apartment Jane was looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then to go back to Victor,
Yeah.
um, his ending was fine. Victor
Mhm.
has always been, he's been a part of Doom Patrol, but at the same time he's like the cousin.
Yeah.
Just
He's a
ends,
normie.
yeah, he ends up living with his aunt and uncle for a summer.
Mhm.
These are his adventures. Like there's something, and that these last 3 episodes in particular really, like, that's what stood out to me in terms of Victor, where he's not he's not rapidly aging
Right.
like the rest of them, because he doesn't have longevity. He was cyborg, and he was this unique fixture of real superhero and Doom Patrol put
Mhm.
together. And I think that's why he worked once he did fully become a part of the team. And you kind of needed that in this type of show, where you needed
Yeah.
that member who fit but didn't fit, so could be semi used as an avatar for the viewers themselves, who are being used to this
Yeah.
going on these adventures with this cast or whatever.
Mhm.
But him getting a look at his future and figuring out a way, or coming to terms, which again, we knew like this would be the end for him, when in the sense of him finally making peace with being both Victor Stone and being cyborg, and
Yeah.
like these two identities can coexist. It doesn't have to be one or the other,
Mhm.
which for pretty much the entire series, that's what he was battling, and figuring out a way to still make a difference as just being Victor, with teaching and everything. So I
Yeah.
like it, but and I could probably say that about all of the character endings, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, we have spent the last few weeks complaining about how tiresome a lot of these storylines are, but they're tiresome because we know where it's headed. It's
Yeah.
clear as day where it's headed. So I wasn't thrown. That being said, I'm glad I wasn't thrown off like completely, being like, why the hell did they do? They didn't do any character wrong.
Right.
I
Yeah.
would
That.
say they really
Yeah.
didn't do any injustice to any of the characters.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like you said with Victor, I mean, it was very, I did like that they brought Silas back for one last episode for them together to talk, to basically, have that closure with their relationship, because that was such an integral part of those early seasons.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so it was nice that they made amends, and Silas was like, no, if you do this, if you go back to being cyborg, this is on you. You're a grown man now. So I really like that. But you're right, they did do right by all the characters, and they kept each character true to themselves. Um, even though sometimes it would get frustrating, and sometimes, it felt like, with Larry in particular, a lot of times, things weren't moving forward. But, we did, but with episode, I think it was 11, where the penultimate, where Larry meets the alternate Larry in 1996, I think is when they were, um, and meets a version of a negative man, the negative spirit, who can
Mhm.
talk to him, actually talk to him and stuff, and help him, look, here's what it means, here's what it means to be a father, and really like bookended a lot of things that Rita was trying to tell him about love and relationships and stuff, and make something of it. And so so that was I really liked the fact that they did that. And it was a good, so that whenever he and Rama did end up leaving, he diving into the ocean and finding a block of lead, and they go up into the heavens to make a star or whatever. It was, it was like you said. I mean, it was an appropriate finish for that character story. One person that I did did seem to be a glaring omission for me was Dorothy.
Yeah. While I was saying that of like no character injustice, but Dorothy's face flashed in my mind, where it's
Yeah,
like she was like surprisingly absent for a
yeah,
lot of the finale. Now that
yeah,
I think about
yeah,
it, but Dorothy, eh, she I feel like Dorothy had her season, and where it went wrong is when they brought her back for the third season. Like they or they really they introduced Dorothy in the second season. It was clear like she has her story.
Yeah.
Once the story finished, they should have been done with Dorothy.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they kept bringing her back, and then it would change, and it's like, whoa, I thought we were done with this. Like, she's not technically a part of the Doom Patrol. So, yeah, I think the writers had a hard time letting characters go and really realizing that you have a core group of characters with plenty of storylines to do them for. Every season you can introduce a new character, but once that story concludes, you got to let that character go because the roster's full. Like, so
for sure. Because because I know, I guess they used her to basically bring Casey, which, I mean, in the comic books, Casey is a part of the Doom Patrol and stuff, and they, and they use Danny the Street to make that happen. But and I know we got the nice goodbye earlier in the season for Danny the Street, so I don't think there was really a good way to like integrate Danny back into this back half because it was already pretty full to begin with. So but a character I was happy to see back, and I was really surprised when he showed up, was the Chief. Because when we last saw him, he was going to hang out with the Sex Ghost in Doom Manor. But I like the way that they used the Chief in the penultimate episode, as far as just sort of really closing out these folks' journeys, but because he was the one who had the longevity skin tag to begin with, and gave it to them for his experiment, and his interactions with Cliff, and the whole like predestination like situation there, where it was like Cliff was the one to like put him in the wheelchair. I was like, so maybe that's why their relationship, one of the reasons why their relationship is as tortured as it was, because Miles had some sadistic, like, assuming that he drank the forgetting potion that I'm blanking on his name right now. Mark Shepard's the actor, but I can't remember the character's name.
I know who you're talking about. I have no idea what he's called.
Yeah, but yes. So I like, so I like those kind of things, and also thinking back the first season with the Nazis and going to South America and all that kind of stuff. It was, again, like a lot of the bookends of the first of the series.
Yeah. I think everything that they did with Giles was good, served the story, and it made a lot of sense in terms of these characters concluding their own stories.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Oh, Rouge. We can't. Yeah.
I could totally end this podcast without talking about Rouge. I have no problem doing that. So, but if you want to say something about Rouge,
I think, I mean, it was no secret I was not a big fan of Rouge character. I felt, especially the third and fourth seasons that we talked about this show, but I will say that these last 3 episodes in particular really is where I like finally warmed up to Rouge, and made it very cool. I was like, oh, I see the purpose of why she was a part of this team, and just her goodbye with Vic there, and Vic's just like, look, if you cross that line, I'll be there to like pull you back. So the whole literally burning down the ant farm, and I guess create something new, or all. But I just thought that I really like that sequence, because you just had the theme song of the series like playing while she like burns down the ant farm, because it was basically the place where all these misfits were like birthed from, where all these, with these crazy experiments on people making people metahumans and whatnot. And so for her to burn it all down, it was a nice bit of a little closure as well, to go along with, Rita's, closure, getting to be with Malcolm at the end too. That was a nice little touch. And then of course Cliff's ending. Like as we started out at the beginning, we can close it out at the end. How fitting it was for him to get the last word.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at Scene_N_Nerd. And visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.